Hey folks, it's Tom Opre here, the Shepherds of Wildlife Society, and we're working on a new film called The Last Keeper. I've spent, I don't know, probably too much time in Scotland. No, you can never spend too much time in Scotland, but about 140 days over about a year and a half, starting in May of 22. And today we're kind of coming to the end, full circle. And we've been doing lots of video editing since the summer. Final video shoots in November in Scotland, stand-ups and all that. And then part of this big process is music. Without every great film is only as good as half of it's visual and half of it's audio. And so it's really important that people understand that without great music, you really don't have a great film. It pulls everything together and even adds more to it. And so today we have Paul Mounsey here from the Isle of Skye. Paul is you know, extraordinary music composer. And we met Paul, it was last year? We were in Skye and we had a chance to meet with Paul, who was referred to us from a friend, and sat around, had a couple pints, and talked about this film. And ended up, it became obvious that he was the right guy to work on the project. So, Paul, tell us just a little bit about yourself. And I know you don't like to talk about yourself, but tell these people, this guy living in Skye, who you are.
I'm born and raised in Scotland, but I've spent most of my adult life in other countries, uh, mostly in Brazil, and also spent most of the last 12, 13 years in Los Angeles working in writing music for movies. In a lot of kind of big blockbuster movies.
Just give us a half dozen titles of music that you've written
uh,
music for.
well, I've contributed music to some of the big sort of Marvel movies, a lot of animations, because animations generally need a lot of orchestral music, and so they need a lot of people on them. So I've written for How to Train Your Dragon franchise, the Ice Age franchise, um, and a few others. And I usually forget the movie I've worked on about 48 hours after I've finished working on it.
You
That,
did
that's
work.
been a
You
few.
did work. Speaking of animations, you did work on a film that came out in 2020, a short animation that,
Oh,
yeah,
indeed, yes.
yeah, and
Hair,
that
Hair Love,
particular
yes.
film won an Academy Award for
It
Best
won
Short
an
Film.
Academy Award. It did, yeah.
So how
Yeah.
how did that all work out for you?
That well, that Academy Award was for the film. It wasn't for the music. But I mean, I'm very proud to have provided the music for that little film. That was from Sony Pictures Animation, um, and how it got to me, I honestly, I don't know. These things are sometimes a complete mystery, but um, but I ended up writing the music for that little animation, and it was done for not very much money, and in the end, it won an Oscar. So that was very nice.
Yeah, well, it's like I said earlier, every film, only half of it's the picture, the other half is the audio component. So,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
very few people recognize that.
yeah, well, that's for sure. So you're working on The Last Keeper. Obviously, you're
Yeah,
from Scotland. You read the headlines, people around
yeah.
around the countryside and in the cities and stuff. So you're pretty well versed in some of the land use conflicts that are going on in your country. When you first
Well, I
started.
have to say,
Yeah.
I have to say that I learned a lot from watching the film because uh, it's a topic that very few people in Scotland are actually consciously engaged in. Because as you say in the film, you know, 80% of Scottish people live in the central belt, that narrow central belt between Edinburgh and Glasgow,
Yeah, urban areas.
the urban area. and their lives frequently do not connect in any way with the Highlands of Scotland. And the whole issue of land use, land management, land reform, it does not affect them in any way. And they might read something in passing in the newspaper, but it's not a subject that many Scottish people really engage with in any realistic way. And I think this film is it's very important. I think I think it's going to be eye-opening for a lot of people and for a lot of Scottish people too.
Yeah, yeah. It's
By the very fact that you've given so many voices, we hear so many different voices. It's not just a sort of two-way argument. It's we're hearing lots of factions with different points of view, with slightly different points of view, and they're all slightly incompatible with one another, and
yeah.
that's what makes it fascinating.
Yeah, no, definitely. And obviously for you writing the music to this, that poses lots of challenges also, not only because there are so many points of view that have to be out there, but obviously, myself as a director, my goal is to put blinders on our viewers and force them to go down this path that I want them to go down. And in your job as a music composer, it's basically helping put that yellow brick road underneath that path so that people feel like they're on this incredible journey. What are some of the most difficult things for you as the composer on this project, as far as trying to achieve the things that kind of the direction I've given you on really a segment by segment basis?
Yeah, yeah. The biggest challenge for me, I have found, has been to underscore, to punctuate, and to link the various dramatic threads within the narrative, um, without drawing too much attention to the music, because it's a complicated topic and there is a lot to be said in the movie, and we can't have the music sort of popping its head out saying, hello, listen to me. We have to keep focused on what is being discussed. And so it's kind of it's been a bit of a task for me to sort of lower the, let's say, lower the filter so that the intensity of whatever drama is happening on screen is not, we're not Hollywood here. We're
Yeah, and that's one of the things. This is a documentary film.
yeah,
So, the difference between a narrative and a documentary, obviously you have a lot more opportunity in a narrative film to build in, fairly emotional scenes with little or no dialogue.
yeah,
A little bit harder with docs, though. As I've told a lot of people, this is only my second feature film I've ever directed. I've obviously done tons of short form stuff. And
yeah,
so it's been great working with you to get that input on kind of even looking at my next project, the real Yellowstone here. I mean, I'm already decided there's some things I want to do, with the music long before we get to this point, to help build some of those stories up, about to get that affinity towards your characters, which I think you can do in documentary films just as equally as you can in narrative. And but for me, it was a little bit of a learning experience. But I hope this film comes across to folks as a really eye opener, as you said, and educational stuff. Do you have any music you could share with us a little bit about what you've created? Maybe hit the space button or whatever, and play a little bit of music for people to hear.
I could I can hit the space bar, but I'm not sure what's going to come out. But I let me see.
And what scene are you in right now that on your timeline?
A rather controversial moment in the film where they're talking about how best to manage the numbers of red deer on the hills and the estates in relation to the land, and how best to control the numbers. So it is kind of dramatic, because no one agrees with anyone here, and I'm trying to play this sort of, but I don't. Let's see what happens.
If deer stalking is part of your income for the estate, and stags are a big income and you can support many jobs, then you want to lessen the winter mortality. So those estates that feed stags are feeding stags to help them see through the winter. It could be argued that we should just leave them, and what happens is what happens. But it's a business like any other. Stags for next year. You've got to look after them. You've got to take care of them. We're now in a phase where we're seeing how we manage their deer, not just in the fundamental issue, not just as a policies.